mind.
And then other than that, at 9:30 tonight, I have a call. So on Thursday, I was talking with this woman about the podcast, and she suggested looking into Google Analytics. So I don't know if you are familiar with what that is or what that does. But I set up an appointment to speak with someone at 9:30 tonight. So pretty much what it is it like helps people figure out who their target market is by identifying like who's giving us clicks and listens and when and for how long. It just seems like maybe it might be some useful material to have, and it is apparently not all that difficult to set up at all. So that's something that
I
I'm
like
sorry,
that.
I just kind of
Yeah.
anticipated running it up against the end of the show. And since we're starting late, which is fine, I don't mind that. I'm probably going to have to cut out of here like an hour and 5 minutes from now. And then obviously I'll circle back to everyone to let them know how to let you know how that conversation goes. But it sounds very promising. So again, like what it does is it would give us a lot more information in terms of like who's actually like listening and when, and I don't know. There's a lot of useful material that can sort of be derived from this very simple little thing that you can attach to your social media outlets.
I like that
So
a lot. Thank you for
Yeah,
going
that's
through with
dope.
that. That's sick.
So anyway, if you want to look into it, it's called Google Analytics. The base model is free, and the one-up model is not all that expensive at all. So anyway, that's sort of what's going on there. Honestly, like Brandon has continued to be a little bit flaky this week, and so I kind of suggested to him earlier today the possibility of us just sitting down and doing something that we could put in because I thought that would be easier for him. So I guess if that's okay with you all, then we can proceed with that.
Yep.
Um, it was
Yeah.
sort of my preference to do something with everyone, but if you're interested in still doing something at all, maybe we can look into that, or I guess I can try to talk to him one more time. But obviously, I understand that. I just you know what I mean. Anyway,
Whatever's easiest for him. I think it'd be a cool interview. So
yeah,
whether he can be here or if it's easier for him to do one-on-one when it's convenient for both of you,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter to me. We can always snip it in there or decide
right,
to make it its own extra little
yeah.
thing or whatever we want to do.
Understood. Yeah, anyway, so those are sort of like the two logistical things on my end. And I guess the last thing that I would say is next week is finals week here. So after that, I'll have 2 weeks, but the next couple weeks are going to be kind of hectic. So I'll be around. And if I'm a little bit late responding, I do apologize. But other than that, I've been keeping up with a lot of stuff and listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff to stay up with everything. And so this Jarvis Landry thing is just funny. Like, it's just really, really funny, man. And like, I think that there's such a good conversation to be had there about like how any team the amazing thing about the NFL is that any team can talk themselves into their team having a chance to win the Super Bowl. And like that's even though it's not true at all, right? Like at the end of the day, there's probably only 4 or 5 teams that realistically have a chance to win. Every single team right now thinks that they have a chance for some reason. And it's also just a fun game to play. Like just pick a team right now, dude. Pick any team, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins would be lucky to go 7-9 this upcoming season. But right now they're saying to themselves, well, we got Tannehill back and we've got a couple really good young tight ends. And we've got this new kid corner, and forgive me for not being able to remember his name, who's really good. And so I just think it's a fun game to play. Like so many teams in the league think that they have a chance, including your Cleveland Browns, apparently Mac, and like they've won one game in 2 seasons. Is that correct? One game?
One game in 2 years. There have been
Right.
more Star Wars movies put out since then Cleveland Browns wins.
Correct me if I'm
3
wrong.
years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mac, but Johnny Manziel, the last quarterback to win a game for the Cleveland Browns. I know that sounds.
I think
It's Robert Griffin.
Is it?
I know that because he was going after Browns trolls on
I think it is
Twitter. It's a while back, but it's Robert Griffin.
Okay, even so, Jarvis Landry said earlier this week that he thinks that he said, first of all, which I think is also an interesting conversation, that they're going to put up 40 on everyone. And secondly, he said that he wouldn't be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. Now, there are so many different levels to dissect here, given that we're talking about a guy who might actually end up being the third receiver on this team if they end up signing Des Bryant. But to expect the Cleveland, have they scored 40 in 10 years?
I can't go back that far,
Because
but
that's a stat that I know.
I know in at least one season last year they didn't get to 40, and I doubt the year before they got to 40.
Right. And so, listen, they got the first pick in the draft and they took Baker Mayfield, and that's exciting right now. But let's not forget that they've also taken 10 other quarterbacks in the first round before that haven't panned out. So it's fun right now to believe, if you're a Browns fan like Mac, you are, that you're going to be able to put up 40 on everyone. And I'm not saying you agree with what Jarvis Landry is saying, but there are Cleveland Browns fans out there right now, I'm sure, who are irrational and say that what Jarvis is saying is completely true. And I'm here to let you know that that is absurd.
I completely agree with you. You can only take what he says with a grain of salt. And no, it's not. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They probably won't go 500. But I think it is exciting because you can just tell that there's a different energy in the room, if you will, and the whole organization seems more excited about the whole organization seems more excited about this season. And I do believe that their receiving core is so much stronger than it used to be. And it's probably a better situation than what he had in Miami. All right, go ahead, Mosley, roast me.
Oh no, man! I'm surprisingly closer to your side.
Oh, get out of here! Get out of here, dude! That was such fan speak he was giving us for the last 30 seconds there. What does that mean?
What else do you want him to give, man? He's a fan of the Cleveland Browns. Do you want him to just tell you that his life's going to be horrible forever? Because it is.
What does new energy in the building mean? What does that mean? What does that get you? He said
optimistic.
He said there was
I'm not agreeing that on the new energy in the building. All I'm saying is they made better moves this offseason than they have in the previous years, and that's all you can ask for when you are a fan is improvement at that point. And anything's improvement from 0-16. And what you have to say is they are significantly a better roster this year than they were last year. So there is room for better optimism coming into the season. That being said, the Browns are terrible. The chances that they score 40 in the next 5 years is low, much less this year. And
that is an incredible future.
That was a hot take.
I'm not saying that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take. I'm not sure that they have scored 40 for 10. Have they scored 40 for the last 10 years?
Browns probably scored 40 a couple times. Braylon Edwards in his prime. That was a good team.
That was a
16 touchdowns in a year.
Braylon Edwards.
They went 10-6
with Jeff Garcia.
No, with Derek Anderson.
That's right. Jesus.
Jeff Garcia made a career of just saving NFL franchises for 1 year at a time.
Yeah, did it with the Eagles.
Yeah, he did it with Philadelphia, and then didn't he do it in Tampa also?
That he did.
Yeah, and he did it with the 49ers before that, right? Post Steve Young 49ers.
Yep.
All I'm saying is that what Jarvis Landry said about his own football team points, in my opinion, to a ridiculous absurdity about the NFL, which is that there are 31 other teams who are saying the same thing. Now, granted, one of them has Tom Brady, and so they're right to think that they have a chance to win. And their team is Philadelphia, and they're really, really good also. And, of course, there are other good teams who are right to think highly and have high expectations going into this season. But, dude, if Jarvis Landry is saying this about a team that he's been a part of for 2 months, like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Go ahead, Alec.
Hot take, I think the Browns, at the minimum, are the number 2 team in their division, and I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs.
What?
Okay, well, that's a
I've
huge...
said this to you guys earlier in the week, and I've got reasons for it. One, Baker Mayfield is, first of all, I don't think he's going to be a good NFL player. But Tyrod Taylor is a quarterback that you can win with.
I agree with that.
But the second best in the division.
Look at their skill players, right? Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson, along with
Nick Chubb,
is your running back core, right? Your wide receivers are Josh Gordon, who might play a full season. We don't know yet, but he hasn't gotten right. Jarvis
He might
Landry,
fail a drug test next week.
That's true. Or he might have already.
That's also true. But Jarvis Landry, who's led his team in catches for the last 5 years, but is probably the perfect number 2 receiver in the NFL right now. David Njoku, a wicked athletic young tight end, high upside. They have monsters on the front 7, which includes maybe the deepest linebacking core in the AFC, if not the NFL, and blue chippers in the secondary. I think there's a lot of reason to be high on the Browns.
There are so many things I hate about what you just said and how you said it. I hope I can remember to get to all this. Okay, first things first, is it about the Browns or is it about who's in their division? Because saying they're second best in their division doesn't mean a lot when they have to beat Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco, who's absolutely
So part
terrible.
of that is second best. I think Cincinnati and Baltimore are on a steep decline, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers are in that direction as well, but not this season.
Right, okay. And here's the thing. I don't know football enough to debate you on if Baker Mayfield's going to be a good player or not, but I don't hear anyone out here saying that the Browns are better off going with Tyrod Taylor, dude, with all due respect to him.
For right now,
absolutely.
I think that Tyrod Taylor took a bad Bills team to the playoffs last year. He's always had a positive touchdown interception ratio. If you let Tyrod Taylor go out there and not make mistakes for you and have a good defense, which is what it looks like the Browns could have, actually.
Right. So you're saying to play the guy who's exactly like 27 of the other quarterbacks in the league, even though the 6 teams that are good have the quarterbacks to do the other thing.
The thing is,
Tyrod Taylor's a top 15 QB in the NFL.
Yeah, fine. And he also
That's
does
not even
that, not making mistakes. You said it yourself, dude. Not making mistakes isn't going to win you anything significant. Baker Mayfield throws the ball down the field at least.
Look at like you just said,
making mistakes with a bad team.
Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco, and then Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor's the better of the 3.
He's the best out of those 3.
Oh, dude, Joe Flacco is a fake gunslinger, dude. Did you watch any of the Ravens games last year? He didn't do anything.
You're helping us. You're like,
no.
Yeah.
You're saying that it's better right now for the development of the Browns to play Tyrod Taylor, and that may be true in the short term, Alec, but in the long term, there's no way that is so.
I think that throwing a quarterback in who, one, especially is an unknown commodity like Baker Mayfield is a real gamble. And just because it worked with Carson Wentz, who is, let's be honest, the perfect quarterback, it doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else. And Tyrod Taylor, first, the Browns don't need to go to the playoffs, whether or not I think they can. The Browns need to win 4 games because when you win 1 of 32 games, you need to at least try to win 2 or 3 or 4 to save face as an actual NFL franchise. Tyrod Taylor 100% can do that. And if you look at playoff teams, you need to look no further than the AFC Championship game where the Jaguars were led by the most erratic, chubby Ben Roethlisberger knockoff of a quarterback in Blake Bortles.
Yeah, but they also have Leonard Fournette and the defense. The defense. You give me that, dude.
That's the Browns.
But that defense came out of nowhere. And that's what the Browns are trying to do with their defense. I have to say this. The one part of this whole thing that I disagree with Mac is the new energy in the building because I think they should have fired Hugh Jackson because I don't think any coach worth his salt goes 1-31. No matter who your players are, they're all still NFL players, right? At the same time, I think the Browns are building a franchise the right way and how you should do it in the NFL.
You have got to be one of the only human beings out there saying that, dude. The Cleveland Browns have one of the worst front offices in professional sports, dude. And I
just
understand
revamped it.
Sample size, man. Fine. Okay, fine, dude. Everything that you said can be true, and it can also be true and is true that over the last 15 years, they have been critically lousy.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I mean, they have completely like dismantled their front office and put new people in. And then they've also added a lot of new players and done like a crazy offseason.
Right. Understood. All right. I didn't think we were going to get this deep into Browns right off the bat, but I do have to ask you while we're on the topic, Mac Young, anything on Josh Gordon?
No. Oh, he didn't report to some training this week because he had like personal problems. So that is a red flag. That is terrifying. But it did not disclose what it was. It did say in the article that it was not related to drugs.
No, and it's like part of his normal treatment plan, right? Or at least that's what they're saying at the moment.
Yeah, but otherwise I haven't heard anything other than that little news clip.
I mean, I think sort of as Will alluded to before, I'm not sure that there are very few athletes right now, and this is an interesting conversation to get into at another time, but there are a few athletes right now who you trust less than Josh Gordon, right? Maybe John Jones in the UFC. Like there are just very few athletes who you trust. Like, I mean, if the story came out literally right now, you wouldn't be surprised at all.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
No one would be.
It would suck, but I wouldn't be surprised.
And so in a world where the NFL exists in this place where possibly the guy who Alex said is the best player in the league last week isn't getting a contract, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Browns do with Josh Gordon in a year, especially if he plays 16 games this year, because that creates a situation where I have no idea what you're supposed to do financially with a talent like him.
I mean, in the NFL, when it comes down to it, they'll cut talent like that if it's not dependable. That's just the type of league it is, which is why we have such spotty like quality on the field, is because people are willing to cut ties with that talent if it's not going to agree with them and their way of doing it long term, which is something that we really do only see in the football market. So I think honestly, if he can't show this season that he's reliable, he's going to have a hard time getting that bag.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I think the one thing that complicates it with this specific player is that he led the league in receiving yards and touchdowns in 14 games with Brandon Weeden as his quarterback. So, Bill Belichick has got to be sitting in his office right now and saying, God almighty, please let this fail, right? Because this guy reeks of someone who's going to go to New England and break records.
I would hate to see him with the Patriots. Sorry, that was the long, exasperated.
It doesn't seem all that far fetched, though, does it?
No,
I don't think a guy like that could like buy into like that structure.
Right, but you would have said the same thing about Randy Moss. You literally would have.
And you might not have gotten him for long term, but he got his ring when he was there for some good seasons.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's going to be good. He's going to be good somewhere. Just to go back a little fact checking here, the last time the Cleveland Browns have scored 40 points in a game was Sunday, December 20th, 2009 against Kansas City. Brady Quinn was your quarterback, and he went 10 of 17 for 66 yards and 2 INTs and no touchdowns.
That's exactly why it's not a hot take at all when Will Mosley says that it's almost a good bet to bet against Cleveland scoring 40 over the next 5 seasons. Now, granted, so much can change, right? In a league where none of the contracts are guaranteed and you can just, as Mosley was saying right before, you can drop players left and right, things can change in in a drop. And that's, of course, what half the teams in the league are trying to do all the time. And Cleveland's one of them. But, I mean, it's been 15 years of nothing but mediocrity at best and just being awful at worst, right? And so, you know, I would play Baker Mayfield, man. I don't have a horse in the race at all. But I think that recently you can make the argument that letting the quarterback play has been beneficial to the player. Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of good examples out there, I think. And so it'll be interesting to see what Cleveland does. But in terms of another quick NFL story that I want to hit on, Aaron Donald doesn't have a deal yet, and Le'Veon Bell looks like he's going to be moving on from Pittsburgh next year, which creates a situation that I don't think we've ever seen in the NFL where players literally like, I'm here for a year, then I'm done. And so I don't know what you do with any of that other than, dude, if Todd Gurley got paid, like, you've got to pay, like, Le'Veon's got to get his, right? And Aaron Donald, as I said before, Alec was out here last week saying Donald's the best player in the whole fucking league, and he hasn't gotten paid. So, you know, what do you do with any of that?
I find the Le'Veon Bell thing a little unsurprising, to be honest. You know, like we were talking earlier, in the NFL, consistency and the ability to play 16 games is valued more so than in any other professional sports league, right? In the NBA, you play 60 games, that's great, right? As long as you're there for the playoffs.
70. I mean, I think 70 is sort of the line for a durable player. But
yeah, but like, think about, like,
you can miss games.
His career, Tim Duncan, right, was resting half the time anyways. Yeah. And in the MLB, you play 140, right? You can miss 20 games or so. Nobody even notices. In the NFL, you play 16 games unless your team has clinched a playoff spot, and then you miss number 15. And Le'Veon Bell does not do that. Consistently does not do that. On the other side of things, name the last time a Super Bowl winner had a single backfield. I'm pretty sure it's Marshawn Lynch to the Seattle Seahawks. But if you look at the Patriots recently, the Eagles, the Broncos, all those teams had backfields. It's great that Le'Veon does what he does, but you can get that out of 3 players who you pay each $1.5 million. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's the truth. I think
the thing is, no, you can't. Like, you can't do that. And
yes, you definitely
I see your point. Like, you can't get that because you can't have that one player be able to do all 3. He's unique in that if he's on the field, you don't know if he's going to block you, he's going to run past you, or if he's going to just catch the ball and then outrun you. He can do all 3 of those things. When you start having that backfield, it is useful because you can split time. But the problem with that is when the Saints try to do it with the Darren Sproles, or when the Eagles even tried to do it with Sproles, if Sproles came in, you knew he wasn't going to block you. You knew he wasn't going to run up the middle. It limits you in that. So, yeah, he is special. He's one of the best running backs we've ever seen vision-wise, and he does stuff that no one else can do and you can't get from other people. And I understand that, like, just previous people haven't had it, but we haven't had this good of a running back on this good of a team since Marshawn Lynch with the Seahawks.
On this
good, like, this is a phenomenal talent, and it's on a team that is consistently challenging up there in the AFC, and they have their problems, don't get me wrong. And I'm with you on, I don't necessarily think that he should get a huge deal per the market. I'm okay with him not getting a deal, and I'm okay with you letting him walk because he is not on the front end of his career anymore. He might not be technically on the back end, but he's not on the front end anymore. So I'm with you on not paying him and not being surprised he doesn't have a deal. But to say you can let him walk and then just think you can replace him, that just doesn't happen. Like, there's a lot of running backs. You can replace 60% of them, but you can't replace him.
So I think that's the truth though, Wills. Would you rather have, because it's a running back, and would you rather have, like I said, 3 guys who maybe you pay a total of $7 million to, who do, let's say 80% of that, right? And then you're able to spend the other $8 million on probably more important positions, or a guy who's only going to play 14 games. And I'll counter you with, when the Eagles tried to do it, The Eagles did it with Corey Clement, Jay Ajayi, and LeGarrette Blount last year, and it led them to a Super Bowl. And oh, by the way, the team across from them were also using multiple running backs. I just think that
I'm not saying the multiple running back is a bad theory. It works very well. I'm just saying that he is unique and phenomenal. And if he was younger, there'd be no reason not to pay him, a la Todd Gurley getting his money.
But what I'm trying to say is I think that it's great that he's unique and phenomenal, but in the current, paradigm of the NFL that we're in, that uniqueness is moot and void. And, it's null and void because the running back is, no matter what the Rams paid Todd Gurley, which is also something I'd like to talk about. I just think it doesn't make any sense.
I disagree so much, though. Like what Will was saying about the tactical advantage of having one player who can do all three from the same spot on the field, stuff like that matters in a league where everyone is super strong and super fast.
But on that exact same hand, when you look at that tactical advantage, and part of the reason, and it's terrible, but part of the reason that he's not going to be paid is because he does so much, because he's on the field for so many snaps, because he's had so many touches. Teams, the Steelers probably as well, his own team, but other teams are going to be wary of those touches, wary of what it's done to his body. They'll note the fact that he hasn't played a full season or a full playoffs in his entire career, right? He's not a 16 gamer. And that's going to affect it. And that's why talk about deals in the NFL that confound you. Todd Gurley getting that much money is something that really surprises me. He's had multiple knee issues in the NFL and in college. And by the way, that money is money that should have gone to, like I've said, the best player in the league. I think the Browns just got free agent happy, tried to build a super team, and totally forgot who got them there.
Yeah, I think you meant to say LA there, but
wow, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do agree with you. They might have overpaid him a bit. I think what's fun to look at the LA market right now, they got Machado, they got LeBron. Crazy. They made this move.
Zlatan.
Zlatan. If there's a place that is going to be throwing bags of money out right now at people to get them in the door, it's going to be LA. Whether it's a risk or not, it's worth a risk when your value is so high just because of the city that you live in. And I could see them paying Donald and biting the tax and not worrying about it. And they can pay to have the super team if it means that they start getting in contention and the revenue truly starts rolling in and they can become LA's team. And if they can capitalize on all these things, the money's worth it. But I mean, he might have been slightly overpaid, but I feel the same way that I just said about Le'Veon is if Le'Veon was younger, yeah, give him the money. I don't think I understand the running back market, but if the chance that you're going to get 5 years out of this guy and he is going to be that, means that you get a possible Hall of Fame level running back for 5 years. Any amount of money is worth that when you sit back on the back end and you look back at your team and you're like, man, I had 5 years of a Hall of Famer. It doesn't matter what the money is, especially if you get the job done once. I saw an article saying Aaron Rodgers is going to go down as the most overrated waste of talent in the NFL, or the most waste of talent in the NFL history if he only wins one Super Bowl. And you know what I say? I don't care because he won my team one Super Bowl. And if Todd Gurley does that, then it doesn't matter the amount of money they spend. But I agree with you. They need to give Donald his bag.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Given that Gurley has gotten his money now, it's totally confounding that Bell and Donald haven't gotten paid yet. It doesn't make a lot of sense because no one disputes that. If you just ranked all the NFL players on one sort of spectrum, right? No one would dispute that those two guys were more valuable last year than Todd Gurley was to the Rams. And Todd Gurley had a great year last year. Dude, Donald's position is more durable than Gurley's. I just don't understand the business of that on Los Angeles' end. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Will. Like, it's a great city. It's a great time to be in the city. And so building a super team and paying the luxury tax, those are things they're going to be more willing to do. I agree with all of that. But I don't understand, for football reasons, if you're trying to win and you're trying to put a winning product on the field, I don't understand why you don't lock down the – Alec just sat here for 5 minutes telling us about how it's so easy to go out there and find a three-headed monster that can do the same thing as one guy. No one is arguing that Aaron Donald is the only one out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. You're 100% right. I don't hate Gurley's money, but I agree with all of you. The timing of his money seems suspect when you have a guy of that caliber on the other side who doesn't have his bag, who's clearly not happy that he does not have his bag yet.
So I think this is kind of like a classic LA isn't a football town moment. And I know it's a weird direction to go, but when you think of LA, you don't think of defensive linemen. You know, you think of superstars. You think of, I mean, it's not a football town, but I think of running backs and wide receivers and quarterbacks and Matt Leinart dating supermodels at USC, you know, and Todd Gurley fits that mold, and Aaron Donald doesn't. He's been arguably the best defensive player in the game, give or take a healthy J.J. Watt maybe, for the last 3 years. And how much do you know about him? Almost nothing, right? I've never seen an Aaron Donald interview. And in that LA market, I think it probably looks good to have a superstar running back for 4 years.
It looks good to have a super team for 4 years, or I guess I should say it looks better to have a super team for 4 years, right? I mean, dude, it's going to be cool to watch what the Rams do, right? And eventually they're going to have to lock him down, dude, because he said that he's not playing another snap for the Rams until he gets paid. And I agree with him for doing that. Like, we went through this last year where he ended up showing up right after a while, and then he was fantastic. And it was great that he was fantastic, man. But for that guy to play next season at $6 million a year makes no business sense for him whatsoever. And so, like, good for him, dude. They're going to have to pay him, dude. It just like, in a world where they pay Gurley, they have to pay him now. The column is going to fall soon, I think. I just think at this point, like, it has to.
Yeah. I mean, he needs to get his money. Le'Veon's going to get his money somewhere next year. The one training camp story I got a little surprised by was the guy that's sitting out who hasn't necessarily showed us anything, and that's Sam Darnold. And, man, I hope that guy doesn't fall out. I hope he does not play out so bad for how he ended up handling the beginning of this situation, because to hold out of your rookie minicamp as the quarterback just does not look good.
No,
and I can't imagine that's too good of a feeling for anyone who is a Jets fan, if they ever have good feelings anymore.
I was going to say, it is, gosh, I mean, between the Jets and the Browns, man, this has been a hell of a segment. But, I mean, dude, is there anything more Jets than, like, rah, we're going to draft the quarterback of our future, and then the quarterback of our future is kind of seems not all that into it.
Yeah, not inspiring at all to have that coming out of New York. Market that just does not seem like it can put that team together, which makes no sense coming out of obviously such a huge market with a team that shares a building who seems to have been able to put it together in recent history.
That's good. Nice job. Okay, so what else was on the agenda? I think maybe the best idea, since that was really long, might be to let you guys run through a fun power ranking at the end of the show, maybe.
Okay.
For that one segment that I'm gone. But in terms of sports, what else did you guys have in mind?
So we talked about this a little bit last week, but did you see in the news how Newcomb, he's a pitcher for – gosh, I want to say he's a Braves pitcher. He's probably not a Braves pitcher. But, he throws the almost no hitter, and immediately after that, somebody goes rifling through his tweets. It happened again to I'm sorry, guys, I should have been more prepared with the names, but it seems to be happening a lot, especially in baseball. And I just wonder, like, I don't love it. And don't get me wrong, I don't know if you guys know this. I know Mac knows it. I'm super liberal. I'm from Connecticut. I'm very anti all those types of things. I've already gone through my tweets to make sure I'm not gonna bite my own tongue at some point. But I just don't. I think it's a little over the top. I just feel like sometimes people have to be able to be dumb 15-year-olds who said insensitive things and didn't know better.
I think that's a good conversation.
What was the name?
Yeah, let's get those names compiled, and we can do like a 10, maybe like 10 to 12 minutes.
Sean Newcomb, he's a Braves pitcher.
We just want to make sure that we're talking new, right? Since we talked about it last week,
This is
James Newcomb was new.
I'll be right back.
James Gunn got fired as the director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3
because of
after someone ruffled through old tweets and found
Can we ask?
made jokes about rape and pedophilia.
Yeah, it was for like an experimental project, right, or something like that.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to find the exact tweets now.
Can we go through everyone's most embarrassing tweet?
I took mine down. I don't know that I want to say it. I have one
I was
tweet
about
that I
to say,
actually took down for that reason.
I was about to say, if you had to take down a tweet, how about you do the next one? I don't know. I'd have to go back.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a good
Trey
topic.
Turner, national shortstop.
All right, yeah, whenever I'm ready to do that one.
So there's those two, and then James Gunn.
Alec, I'll probably come to you or Will, let you guys sort of take us through some of this informationally.
Yeah, do you want to? We can go over our most embarrassing tweets and then kind of say that it's in the context of these recent things coming out and feeling like you have to check your Twitter just in case.
Yeah, give me a second, to be honest, because I wasn't prepared for this. I'm scrolling.
I don't have my tweet, but I know what it was about.
Yeah, well, we can probably go to that at the end.
Yeah, we
I
can
like to start with the information.
Hey, I have a funny. While I'm scrolling back through these, I do have a funny, bit for y'all. This was one from 2015. Johnny Football enters rehabilitation treatment for alcohol problems. # he's in love with the cocoa.
it's a very 2015 tweet right there.
Yeah, man, that's funny. God, man, that was good.
All right.
Anyway, y'all can figure it out. I'm looking back through it, but I can speak at least on on the whole topic of it. And then, like I said, James Gunn was fired as well. And then there's a bit of a story on that.
I'll bring us back formally here because we didn't really introduce or anything. We're all, that was about 30 minutes, I think we just did, right, Mac? Something like that. It was long.
That was a long one for sure. We were pretty close. We might have gone over 30 minutes on that.
Okay. All right, so we'll break for a couple of seconds here, and then we'll just kind of go around and get into that, I guess. What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. This is From the Nosebleeds Sports Podcast. My name is Andrew Levin. I am speaking to you from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm here with my very good friends, producer and contributor, Mac Young from Asheville, North Carolina. Right, bud?
Yes, sir.
My good friend, Will Mosley, who still more art over the right shoulder there, man. Looks like some of he's sort of, now he's I was going to use the word fondling, but that's probably not the correct word.
Framing.
Let's watch wording here. It's a delicate week for wording, boys.
So Will, how's it going, man?
Going all right, everybody. How is everybody over there?
Sorry to cut you off, man. From the northeastern part of the country, our good friend Alec Uwecki. How's it going, dude?
Pretty good, guys. Pretty good, guys. How are you?
So, another week in sports and another week of athletes doing significant things on the field, and then everyone's running after them for doing stupid things on Twitter, right? Seems like this is becoming a common thing. And so, Alec, I know you've got some thoughts.
Yeah, so Sean Newcomb, who is, from what I gather, a Braves pitcher, not as well-versed on the Atlanta Braves roster as Will is these days, but gets a strike away from a no-hitter. 2 outs, 2 strikes, bottom of the ninth, gives up a no-hitter, gets the win. But more importantly, as that no-hitter is happening, it comes out that he has some racist and homophobic tweets. Earlier in the week, or right after that, actually, Trey Turner, shortstop for the Nationals, also has a similar incident happen, and it's something that is kind of kind of perplexes me, just on more of a moral ethical basis, because I don't want to give excuses to these guys. Like Josh Hader, I think that what they did is wrong, and I think that there's certain things that you have to recognize even when you're a 15-year-old, that Twitter is a public forum, no matter if you have 30 followers or 300,000. But at the same time, I think that this kind of retroactive, going after things people said when they were 15, kind of trolling is a little bit pervasive and dangerous. And I'm kind of interested in seeing what you guys think about that.
Why do you think it's pervasive and dangerous?
I just think that if people aren't allowed to make mistakes as 15-year-olds, especially when, that was like 10 years ago, and we're going to hold them accountable to those things, then, when are you allowed to make mistakes? I by no means condole what they said, right? And I do think that at some point you have to come to terms with those things, but at the same time, I think I think that when I think there's a statute of limitations on everything.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on feeling a little uncomfortable reaching that, with this trend of whoever's the hot celebrity right now on Twitter. You can pretty much put a 35-minute timer on, and then there'll be a blog or an article popping up or a tweet that retweets something that they said 11 years ago when no one had a Twitter but 11 people on the planet. And I mean, I'm with Alec. It's a very delicate situation, and obviously no one wants to condone anything racist or homophobic, or condoning any type of like negative culture in America, or the world in general, and it's terrible. But to some extent, everyone has something that they've said in their past that they've misspoken at least, and said something that is wrong on some level. And I do feel like it is a bit harsh going back and just dragging it out just because we have the means now to look back at something that people are saying. Because, I mean, if we want to go back, then there have been people who have said those things and made wrong jokes when they're 15 years old for all of history. And if we could look at their Twitters, I'm sure that they would be even worse things than people are tweeting out in 2012. And don't get me wrong, I mean, outside of the sports world, we had James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, for the last 2, and for the third one, who was just fired after he made jokes about pedophilia and rape. And now the context of those are a little bit convoluted on when he did them, and he's put out an apology and actually had support from the entire cast about how he's not the person that he was when he tweeted those things, and it's not the same thing. And I think that we do need to accept that people change over time. And does that mean that we can't find these things in the past and realize that they're there and maybe keep an eye out for suspicious activity? Maybe, but there's no need to just go through and vilify everyone who happens to come to light because they said something bad when they were 14 years old.
So then okay. I think that there's a lot of truth to what you and Alec are saying. And I agree, as someone who's of course made mistakes, that no one wants to be, I certainly don't want to be judged by my worst moment in my life, right? No one wants to be judged by their worst public moment. I think that that's fair to say. And what I would ask you and Alec is just like, with all that being said, then where does the social responsibility begin? Right? Like, I think that you're right. Like, of course, teenagers say stupid things. And so while I agree with what you're saying, I also sort of have this other part of my mind that is maybe struggling a little bit to grasp, like, when we're supposed to care, right? Understanding that we love to play morality police, and that oftentimes our playing morality police with these athletes is not beneficial and not something that we should be doing.
I mean, I understand that we have to define a line there, but it's not an age to me. It's a distance that you're reaching back. It's a statute of limitations, man. You can't if we can't reach that far back in our own legal system to laws that were broken, then how are we going to retroactively drag things into court of opinion and then throw somebody under the bus when in a lot of ways in America now with social media and connectivity, that can be almost just as bad for a professional's career. And if it was a tweet when a kid was 16 and he's getting drafted into the NBA at 19, yeah, that might be close and we might say something. But these MLB players who were 24 and 25 and were finding tweets from when they were 14 and 13, that is a different person than when they said those things. That is a different human. They have changed, and we deserve a right as humans to show that we have changed and not be drugged through the mud of something that happens when we were a much different person.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly where I stand. Is that part of me, I think I agree with Andrew. I think that there's I do I want to believe the best. And I guess the tough part is if I felt like these were the, feelings of the players at this, certain moment in time, I would wholeheartedly, and I know it's bad, I would wholeheartedly agree with and support, kind of going after them. But I know that personally for me, I got my Twitter out and I've been kind of scrolling back. I don't know if you guys have, but I've been scrolling back through my Twitter, and I got my Twitter in 2011 when I was 17. And not that there's anything that, I'd be afraid of offending somebody for them to see, but there's some stuff on there that's just straight up stupid. That's just the worst. I went through like a 3-month period of time in my junior year of high school where I literally just tweeted everything I was doing on Twitter. Just like, hey, is anybody around? And I would hate for myself to have to be judged on that person. I don't associate with him anymore. I don't think of myself as him. So, I think that we kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt as human beings.
And you're saying that that's what we do with all this in the court of public opinion? I mean, I'm asking you, like, you think that maybe solution is the wrong word, but you think the best way for us to sort of move forward with all this information that we have now through Twitter is to give people the benefit of the doubt. Young people say stupid shit. and that's what it is.
No, I mean, I think what I hope comes from this is that kids learn that what you say now, if you're a pitching prospect, or if you're a 16-year-old who thinks he could be a D1 pitcher, you know for a fact that what you say on Twitter could come back to bite you. And I think that that's something that I hope kids learn, that social media is much more public than they actually think. And I kind of hope they learn that, like,
oh, sorry to laugh at that, man. That's just, it's funny to think, because you're right. Like what you're saying
it's called
totally
social media, right? But
right. And also
it's not private at all.
Yeah.
But I also kind of hope to learn that kids think, maybe if that is the situation that they're in, that like racist and homophobic, rhetoric is just not going to be popular in the mass media. If you want to become famous, it's probably tough to do, especially in sports.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said, and we touched on it last week, speaking about how quickly you can just dive into people's lives as comparatively to the extent that it used to take. And there is a certain level of accountability, like Alec was saying there, to you have to know that you're going to be on record now. It's not like the past. There's cameras and there are mics everywhere. Obviously, we're aware of it as people who sit here and talk into a mic that gets put out on the internet every week for all of you guys to listen to out there. It's something that we've struggled with, that everyone who realizes that they are a voice out there that might be heard starts to realize. And I think what a lot of people don't realize when you're a kid is, like Alec was saying, if you're putting it on Twitter, you're putting it out there. Everyone has it. Everyone sees it. And it's just like us talking into a mic every week, except for it's written down and it's there for everyone to see. It's attached to your account. And to an extent, yes, that is hopefully can bring about an understanding of accountability, that you cannot hide these racist or homophobic or problematic intentions in your life if you feel those ways, because there's cameras and mics everywhere. Someone's gonna hear you. Someone's gonna find out. I just think that it's a delicate situation while teaching that lesson, because we're teaching it through throwing some of these people under the bus and really hurting a lot of people's careers who might not necessarily deserve it now, even though we may be teaching a very good lesson to show about accountability in the future.
Do you think that we've grown too sensitive as pundits? I mean, as people who talk about sports, right? As you were saying before, we talk into these microphones. Do you think that this type of deal has grown far too sensitive to some of those things going on off the field because of access through social media?
Yeah, I think that it's significantly harder and it's significantly more watered down sometimes. The product that we may be able to put out there might not be terribly limited. But I do feel like a lot of athletes feel limited in their ability to get out there and market themselves and their personality, because it is scary sometimes with the risks that go along with that accountability to what you're saying and how sensitive everyone is. And I'm not here to say that we're too sensitive on any end, because I do believe that the person who says something is not the person who gets to choose about being offended. It's the person who is offended who gets to choose when the offense happens. So I'm not going to say that anyone's being overly sensitive.
Is that your own words?
That's something that I have personally just kind of.
How are you not one of America's foremost writers? Say that again.
It's not the person who causes the offense that gets to choose that there is an offense. It's the person who's offended that gets to define when that happens.
Bro, if you spoke like that all the time, you would be like a Kennedy. Your whole family would be on a rise to political significance in this country, dude. Where did that come from inside you? Have you been feeling that for weeks?
It's something I've believed for a long time. I hate when people say, I don't understand why they got offended by that. I didn't say anything offensive. That statement can't be true. If someone is offended by something, therefore you had to have said something that offended them.
Yeah.
Whether you realized it or not. And so I'm not here to say that anyone is more sensitive than another person, or that we're becoming too sensitive. But the fact is that I do believe that it may have watered down some of the personalities and some of the insight that we get into some players in sports and even some media personalities.
I mean, yeah, I think that, I mean, dude, we're at a point with social media and we're at a point with the internet where we have the ability to hyper focus on people and their past like we never have before, right? And also, it's mid-July. Like, we always forget that. It is such a boring time. Is Josh Hader a story if it is the 1st of November and we are beginning to talk about an NFL playoff picture coming together? And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a story then. Like, I'm not trying to bring my own ideology into it. I'm just pointing out that it is late July here. Like, these things exist in part because we need things to talk about into the microphone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you. It's a point. Obviously, we've seen it blow up. We spoke about this last week, and we spoke about how it's a ridiculous topic that it keeps happening. And that how does anyone let this happen anymore? And all you have to do is go through your history. And apparently Josh Hader didn't listen to this podcast, or else he would have known to go back and delete all of his old tweets before someone found them when he was about to throw a perfect game.
It's true. So I guess we should say now, right? Like, we're the show. We're going to plant our flag in that. Everyone out there now, go through your Twitter and delete things. Because like Alex said, you were stupid once. You may not be stupid anymore. You may still be stupid. If you're still stupid now, you probably shouldn't have Twitter at all. But you need to go back through your Twitter and you need to delete those things right now because we will fuck you.
we as a collective group, as society.
Right. Well, of course, that was implied in the we. That was a we with a capital W there.
All friends of the podcast, we're going to be stalking your Twitter to just fucking find the stupidest shit.
And hey, speaking of Twitter, please hit us up because we have one. And there is some stupid shit on there, but not shit we regret, right? @ the Nosebleeds. Go on there, hit us up. Hey, we might even hit you back. Suggestions for the show, comments, questions, answers to polls when we have them. But that is @ the Nosebleeds. And so, yeah, you could pretty much get in trouble for anything you say or do in 2018, right? Nothing is a secret anymore.
Nothing's off limits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, it sounds so simple, but nothing is off. I mean, nothing is off limits in 2018, man. And these people need to know that, right? Like, that's part of the social responsibility that comes with being in the public eye.
If you go back to 2012 and you'd want to find out what Twitter Will Mosley was doing, he was being really angsty about some girl. And
Dude, that's mine.
He was throwing his feels out on Twitter, subtweeting his life away. And this one is probably going to stay on the Twitter for anyone out there who wants to go back and look and laugh and maybe throw a retweet and get it rolling again. We might even throw it up on the podcast Twitter. But you get upset when I don't call. You never answer when I call. Why do I bother?
That is, I wish that we could just let the show sit there. And I know that we have a clock here that's like still running that we haven't filled. But God, could we please just let if the show died right now and not another word was spoken in the history of the show, it would be such a success. Let's just, okay, we're going to, this is from the Nosebleeds podcast. We'll be right back. That was such a good way to end that segment, dude.
I found it and I was like, that's the tweet. That's it.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I deleted all of those like maybe 5 hours ago because I had the same ones.
Yeah, I have a couple of those out there as well.
2012, senior year of high school, definitely had some.
Right at the end. Yep. Summer 2012.
So here's the deal. At about 9:20, which is in 6 minutes, I'm gonna drop off the call so that I can get ready for this, and I will circle back to you guys. But I do want to bring the show back formally so that I can give the Twitter and the SoundCloud information one more time, and then I'll probably just swing it to fun. I'll give my opinion on some guilty pleasure songs, and then I will just give it to you guys to let you wrap up. Does that sound good?
Yeah, give me a second.
Oh yeah, is that where are we doing
Before we
guilty
bring
pleasure
it back-
songs or
Yeah, before we bring it back, let's figure out what we're gonna take it with.
Yeah, that's for you guys to figure it out now. I'm just
Yeah.
letting you know that whatever you want me to do, I'll give my opinion. That'll sort of be the point where
do you have a
I think we should save best secondary movie characters of all time
Okay, that's what I
for
had.
next week.
All right.
Because I think that's a really fun one. I hadn't thought about until Andrew sent out most beloved characters of all time.
Are they like cartoons?
And so-
or, like, we'll think about it.
Yeah, see, that's something I think we should narrow down and kind of get our list together because I think that one can be a really
Let's
fun
just do
one.
guilty pleasure song, man. I like that.
Yeah, I think that one will be fun. It gives a little insight. Mac, I know one of yours, and if it's not on your list, then you're a liar because I've seen you sing every word of it. And if the only reason it's not on your list is because you don't feel guilty about it.
all right, yeah, that sounds good.
We're doing a top 5.
Do you want to do 5, 3?
I only got one.
You got one, your guilty pleasure song?
Yeah.
All right, here, let me look at this real quick.
All
Make
right, I
sure
give
I'm,
you 2.
I'm deciding.
I want to know which one you think. Which one should be on mine?
Okay, so like we said last week, this is a conversation we should have a little bit on air.
Yeah. So I'm fine to start right now.
Okay, so I do want to say this. I'm going to bring us back in. We'll get into it. I'm going to sort of drop out like Batman a little bit. I will get back to you guys after I talk with this person at IT for Google. Here is something. I know we don't have a lot of time right now because I'm in a little bit of a crunch, but Mac, did we do okay this week? Are there things that we can continue to do better? If there are, feel free to text me. I have a marketing person who I'm sort of beginning to talk with a lot now about our process, and she's been pretty helpful. So this Google Analytics thing was sort of her brainchild. But anyway, was it an okay week?
It was okay. No, like a little growth, not a lot. But as far as listening, we just really went. We had a really big week a couple weeks ago, and
We need to get back to that.
need to get back to it. I don't know how we do that, but we for some reason tripled that 1 week was just crazy.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
But now we're like in the low like teens.
Okay.
So
All right. All right. Well, let's try to make that next step. Hopefully, in the next couple weeks, we can end up pushing that to like the low 20s, and then make the step from there. But sounds good.
Yeah.
bring it back, man, so you can get on your way.
Okay. What's going on over? I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. Wait, that was so weird. I don't know if we're in show or out of show right now or not, dude, but that was what? Wow. Okay. Well, okay, so many things to get to now. My name is Andrew Levin. You are listening to From the Nosebleeds podcast. I mean, God almighty, we can't even bring the show back correctly. Okay, my name is Andrew Levin. You are listening to our podcast. It is From the Nosebleeds sports podcast. So I got to head out of here in a minute or two. I'm going to leave the show to the boys to close up shop with a little bit of fun and bullshit. But please continue to hit us up on Twitter at _the Nosebleeds. Go to SoundCloud, hit the search bar. The Nosebleeds Sports Podcast is where you can find us. Continue to listen. Tell your friends about it. Share it. Hey, we might even give you a shout out for sharing. But we appreciate the support. We appreciate you giving us a listen, and we're going to continue getting after it for you. So thank you so much for your support. And so we were texting a little bit earlier this week about sitting in the car and listening to some guilty pleasure radio, which is of course one of my favorite things to do. I know when I'm in the car, whether it be a little bit of NSYNC or Britney Spears, maybe some like Luke Bryan country. There's a lot of music out there that I don't tell people that I listen to, and I think that it's a fucking good conversation to be had.
Definitely is. We can have a lot of fun with it. I know that I can think of Max spending a year in a van with him. I can think of one that should be up there for him. I'd like to see where it ends up if it's not on the top. I'd like to see where that song's hidden, because that is a guilty pleasure. If you live in a van with someone for a year and you still never hear him play it, that means that they really are trying to hear how much they love that song. So, Mac, I'm really anxious to hear what you got on this one.
To be honest, I don't know what song you're talking about. So it's probably not much of a guilty pleasure. It's probably just a big pleasure of mine.
I guess.
But
God, I want you to be that. I want that to be your intro quote so bad. Dude. It's probably not a guilty pleasure. It's just a really big pleasure of mine.
So as of right now, I only can think of two big guilty pleasures that I think I only listen to either with Will or only by myself. The first one being Alicia Keys' Falling. And then the second one being Beyonce with Love on Top. And the third that I'm thinking Will might have is Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. But otherwise,
Oh, you don't have to feel guilty about that.
Same Alicia Keys album, different song, no one.
Dude, I thought it was Fallen, but I'll throw that one in there. I think
you're really into that Alicia Keys album, though.
That he is.
What time period of your life does that come from, Mac? What time period would you say?
Early high school.
Well, it's a good time to be listening to Alicia Keys. Is you and Will Mosley were just sort of sitting on Twitter, being sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what high schoolers do these days?
No, except then I was crying about girls and listening to The Strokes, probably.
Well, when I was thinking about girls in high school, I was listening to Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston. Right? That's a song. Yeah, right. I mean, that guy had a Jamaican accent, which was sort of not something that we really get a lot in music anymore. I think him and Shaggy might be the only two people out there doing the Jamaican accent thing in music, right? I mean, that's not fair to say. I realize there are people from Jamaica making music. But still, though, in the mainstream, those have to be the two guys doing that. Whatever happened to Sean Kingston? I think that's going to be a common theme here. But dude, like some Luke Bryan, like Someone Else Calling You Baby, like a really like a hard like country love ballad is like just what my Northeastern Jewish personality loves, dude. It just fills me up.
Well, okay.
Nice. You
can't say it any better. It fills him up. I feel you on hitting that country vibe. I'm also very hard into that. It's a big part of my life growing up in a small town in the South. And so I'm going to go with Whiskey Lullaby with Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss. Phenomenal song. Rip your heart out. Beautiful. And you'll never hear me listen to it in front of anyone at all. And then number two, I'm going to go a little more towards Mac's side on that. And I'm going to go So Sick by Nia. Because if you want to get those feels out, and if you want to ask hashtag why do I bother, like 2012 Will Mosley, you listen to So Sick by Neo and you understand why you can't turn off the radio.
That is a throwback.
That is a jam. That probably would have been my number three. That's a great song. I don't touch either of the places that you guys go. I was probably a little angstier. I guess I would say mine is "Welcome to the Black Parade" by My Chemical Romance. When I was in middle school, I listened to two types of music, and that was, angsty, kind of like, I don't even know what type of rock you call that, like "Welcome to the Black Parade," Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco. Is that? Let's be honest, that's not punk. That's soft as a punk pop. Okay, yeah, maybe. And gangsta rap. So my number one is "Into Club" by 50 Cent, because that is 13-year-old me to a T.
Is that a guilty pleasure though?
Probably not. I love that.
Do you
song.
still listen to it?
Talk about it. Oh, every day.
I don't know if that one's a guilty pleasure, because I don't think anyone would be too mad with if you turn that on. Maybe a little bit like, where is this coming from? But no.
Yeah. That one's a good one. I liked you taking it a little towards the pop punk angsty side. And so if we're going to that, the first song that came into my mind, Papa Roach, "Scars."
Oh,
That's going to be my guilty pleasure from the angsty side of things. So I'll dabble into the country with Whiskey Lullaby. I'll go with the R&B with Neo So Sick. And then if we're going a little angstier, tougher music, I'm definitely going to say Papa Roach, "Scars." I think I turned that on the radio the other day and went ham while driving down the road, and very much scared a soccer mom and her two children that were next to me.
I don't think I ever went that route, really. Oh yeah, I would listen to it, but I never had that. And I was angsty, but I never got to that level, I guess.
Yeah, I could see it, Mac. You're just too nice of a guy. There's not a lot of angst when you grow up in that sweet Midwestern household with a mom who's knitting you all those beautiful crocheted items. It's hard to live an angsty life, I would assume.
It wasn't too bad.
Not a lot of built up anger. We try to stay positive here on the podcast. We try to joke around. And we're glad that we can keep it lighthearted like that. Guys, anything else on the on your guilty pleasure songs? Any honorable mentions popping into your head late here?
every once in a while, "Promiscuous Girl" by Nelly Furtado and Timbaland. I get that stuck in my head. I can't tell you why, but I do. Not super proud of it, but that is a jam.
That is another jam. I'll throw out last one that pops into my head. I'd like to hear the feedback. "What's Love" by Fat Joe, Ja Rule, and Ashanti.
Yes, dude. That's a great one.
Yeah, that'll truly make you question what is this thing called love.
Dude, and I had one, but I completely forget. Uncle Cracker.
Oh,
Dude, what's that song?
Uncle Cracker.
It's just got to be his top hit.
I know exactly what you're talking about. The one where he says, "And I'll
Follow
swim through
me."
your veins like a fish." Yeah, yes.
Follow me, everything is all right. Yeah, okay, that one's up
Yeah, I
there.
believe that was on Scooby-Doo, the original movie.
Yeah. If it was, it's a banger.
I believe that's where that made it onto. And that's where this podcast has kind of been this week, everybody. We've taken you back to 13-year-old you, when you were tweeting stupid things, when you were angsty, when you were asking, "Why do I bother?" when girls won't call you back when you call them. And when you were watching Scooby-Doo and listening to Fat Joe and maybe some Papa Roach, some My Chemical Romance, and all that good stuff. We try to take you back and make sure you're having a good time here. This is from the Nosebleeds Sports Podcast. You can find us on SoundCloud. Type us in the search bar. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're still working on the last one of those, so don't go searching there first. But we're on Instagram at @_the Nosebleeds. You can find us everywhere like that. Facebook, the Nosebleeds Sports Podcast. I'm Will Mosley with Alec Uecke and Mac Young. Anything last words, boys?
I have one. I just want to say congratulations to my brother and his wife on I'm now an uncle, boys. And I want to welcome into the world Porter and Whitfield. Looking forward to watching you guys grow up. So congrats to my brother and his wife.
Congratulations, man.
You heard it here first. Not one, but two new youngs hoping to bring you content here in a couple years. All right. For everybody here, we'll see you next week. Love you guys.
Cool. That was a
Yeah.
good show.
We
What's
good
up?
on time?
Yeah, man. It's an hour.
Dope.
Yeah, when are you coming up?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Interestingly enough, I have another question for you that's similar. What time are you coming down tomorrow?
To answer Alex real quick, I don't know. Probably August or September. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I don't know because I don't know when you're going golfing.
All right, it's gonna be raining most of all day tomorrow. So Jesus Christ, I gotta stop the